I have made an Indian classical chiptune song. I am doing this for a compilation album by the Magpie Pirates. We are a bunch of musicians and artists in other fields who just hang out together on Discord and sometimes make music to be compiled into compilation albums. And a recent one is Chiptune music. Hey, just between you and me, I've heard murmurs that the sixth land of the Magpie Fest is on very nearby waters, and the Magpie Pirates are planning a scary raid. So, my understanding of chiptune music is music that we heard on old video games, whether they be on tiny handheld ones or the ones that would connect to big television screens. However, there were two problems. Firstly, I had no clue how to make chiptune music. For this problem, I hopped onto YouTube to incompletely watch a few tutorials until I just gave up and decided to do my own thing. The problem number two was that I knew and also saw on the tutorials that most of the music was made by writing notes onto a piano roll. A piano roll is a technology found inside recording softwares or DAWs, where we can actually map out the notes of the music that we want on a grid. On the grid, the vertical axis represents the notes and the horizontal axis represents the beats. And I am not good at piano rolls. So, from the little research that I did, one thing that I managed to pick up is that the sounds used were very simple waves from a synthesizer. Synthesizers are those fancy keyboard instruments that don't actually produce any acoustic sound of their own. But they can magically synthesize simple sound waves, which when combined together in different permutations and combinations makes those amazing sounds that we make them hear. However, for chiptune music, I noticed that they were not using those complex, beautiful sounds, but were simply using those raw, simple waves. And I also clearly remember on the Magpie Pirates Discord that someone had said we can do chiptune by just using square waves. So I fired up a square wave on Vital Synth, set the tempo to 200 BPM, but I still had one more trick up my sleeve. I decided it was going to be emulating an Indian classical performance. I decided to make my song in Raga, which goes 1, flat 2, flat 3, sharp 4, 5, flat 6, 7, and the octave. Firstly, I wanted something to ground the song like a tanpura would do in an Indian classical performance. So I took another track of the Vital Synth, this time using a triangle wave. And while I was at it, I also decided to use it to try and emulate Teen Tal beat being played on the tablas. Now, with the main lead sound, I wanted it to emulate a Drut Gath. A Drut Gath literally translates to a fast composition. It starts with the mukra or sthai, which is basically the first verse or first section of the composition. It usually has two lines, with the first one usually being repeated a lot more than the second one. And for the most part, the mukra usually tends to stay in the lower half range of the octave or even lower. This is how my mukra goes. After the mukra, I tried to emulate a little bit of improvisation before going in to the antara. The antara is the section which goes up to the higher notes. It is pretty common to do a little bit of a tease of the antara, then going on to another improvisation, this time in the higher ranges, and only then coming back to the full antara. So that is what I did. Here it goes. After the antara, the performance goes back to the mukra, which, to be honest, kinda acts like the hook or the chorus or the head if we are talking about the J word. Then the performer goes into tans. Tans are fast running phrases which are interspersed with the mukra. These tans may be composed, improvised, or maybe even roughly planned out. In my case, I had to obviously compose it because I am on a piano roll, remember? And I can't improvise on a piano roll. I barely know where the notes are. I made 3 short tans and a big long one that finishes with a tihai. A tihai in an Indian classical performance is like the cherry on the cake, or like the bacon in the breakfast, or the fillings in the momos. I think I need a food break. I might have some leftovers in the fridge. A tihai is usually a pre-composed pattern of notes which is repeated 3 times. And it is designed in such an intricate way that the last note of the tihai always falls on the very first beat of the tal. Bang! After that, I just came back to the full mukra, then finished it off with a much milder, simpler, and a much more pleasing tihai. And there we have it, my first ever chiptune song with an added dash of Indian classical flavor. It is going to be released on the Magpie Pirates YouTube channel as well as the Bandcamp page. And there's gonna be loads of amazing tracks by so many pirates. We always have a listening party for these compilation albums, so it might be worth turning on the notifications for Magpie Pirates YouTube. Besides that, it is also on my latest album, Jams Volume 13, which is on my Bandcamp page. And as of now, if you want to support me, Bandcamp is the best place to do it. Anyways, this video is kind of finishing, so stay untuned. Okay, bye!